Oftentimes, I try to figure out the next greatest invention after sliced bread. I've come to the conclusion that it's movies. Correction, some movies. Today's movie is an example of something better than sliced bread. Ah! Oh, sorry, read the script wrong. I thought it said Scream, but instead it said Scream. Scream is considered to be one of the most influential horror movies of all time. Scream is a meta-horror comedy that often comments on the entire genre as a whole. It spawned an entire wave of meta-horror comedies oriented towards teens. I'd say that without Scream, the slasher subgenre as a whole probably would have died. Scream was directed by Wes Craven and released in 1996. It spawned 3 other Craven-directed sequels, but was put on hold once he sadly passed away. A 5th movie is being released this Friday and is made by Radio Silence. Now I'll be honest, I'm excited for this movie, but I am very worried to see how it goes considering this is the first movie without Wes Craven's direct help. I guess only time will tell. So in honor of the new movie's release, I'm happy to bring you Scream Week. What's Scream Week? Well, I'll be covering all of the Scream franchise this week, as well as the new one when it comes out. So remember to hit that subscribe button so that you can get more Scream-oriented content this week. Most people know Scream not by its story, but rather its ghost-faced killer. Literally, the character is named Ghostface. The iconic mask was partially why I believe this movie blew up as much as it did. That, and it's a genuinely good movie. Hell, I love Scream so much I made a short film using the character. The cast of Scream is phenomenal. Scream stars Neve Campbell as final girl Sidney Prescott, Courtney Cox as reporter Gail Weathers, and David Arquette as Deputy Dewey. There are also great performances outside of the main 3 characters with Drew Barrymore, Matthew the Shaggy Lillard, Jamie Kennedy, and Skeet Ulrich. Alright, enough of me nerding out. Let's talk plot. The movie opens with a phone call. Casey Becker is home alone, so she decides to answer. Casey Becker is played by Drew Barrymore. I'll talk more about her involvement on the film later. Through the phone, the voice of a sexy stranger answers. The Ghostface voice is one of the most iconic parts of the character. The actor behind the voice is Roger L. Jackson, and he's voiced every iteration of the famous Woodsboro slasher. I tried to create it myself in the short film, but it didn't really go well.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Casey makes popcorn, and it leads into a pretty common conversation for me to have when I meet someone else who likes horror movies.
What's your favorite scary movie?
I don't know.
You have to have a favorite. What comes to mind?
Halloween.
I prefer Dario Argento's Suspiria, but you know, Halloween's not a bad choice. The conversation turns scary and Ghostface reveals he's stalking Casey and has her boyfriend Steve. Ghostface then references Saw.
I want to play a game.
Saw wasn't even out in 1996, so don't leave an angry comment saying that my joke was stupid, okay? Ghostface tells Casey to save her boyfriend, she has to answer horror trivia. Casey does well on the trivia until...
Name the killer in Friday the 13th.
Jason! Jason! Jason!
What the hell, Casey? It's obviously Mrs. Voorhees, Jason's mother. Am I gonna have to pull out the entire collection?
I'm sorry. That's the wrong answer.
Listen, it was Jason. I saw that movie 20 goddamn times!
Then you should know Jason's mother, Mrs. Voorhees, was the original killer. Jason didn't show up until the sequel.
Thank you, Ghostface. I thought I was gonna have to explain the entire franchise to Casey. For this incorrect answer, Ghostface kills Steve. Ghostface smashes the back door and chases Casey around the house. Casey slips away and hides behind a wall. Casey hears her parents coming home, so she makes a run to the front yard, but is chased by Ghostface. Ghostface stabs her in the heart. Casey pushes Ghostface off and crawls towards the front door as her parents are walking into the house, but they don't hear her. Ghostface finishes the job as her parents see the fire from the popcorn and the damage to the house. As Casey is getting dragged away, her parents hear her last breath on the phone. They walk outside to see Casey dead and hanging from a tree. That, my friends, is how you make a hell of a cold open. Better yet, Drew Barrymore was advertised as a main character in this movie. Her face is all over the poster, and it's even on the Blu-ray. Because of this very smart advertising, it was a real shock when Drew Barrymore's character died right out the gates. Now we're introduced to our real main character, Sidney Prescott. She lives with her dad after her mother was murdered a year ago. Her boyfriend Billy Loomis, that's a Halloween reference, comes through her window so they can discuss sex stuff, as most horny horror teens do, and how Sidney isn't quite ready for it yet. Sidney's dad comes in to tell her he's leaving for the weekend and Billy hides. Okay, this is just gross. That's enough, you two. Bye, Billy. The next day, the entire town of Woodsboro is shaken up by the murders of Casey and Steve. Yo, no way! Is that Courtney Gail Weathers. She's a reporter. Tatum, Sidney's friend, informs Sidney of the murders on their way to class, because nothing's a good start to the day like talking about your murdered high school peers. Wait a minute. After school, Tatum, Billy, and Sidney are hanging out with Stu and Randy Meeks. Stu and Tatum are a couple, and poor Randy's all by his lonesome wishing for Sidney. The teens are talking about the murder of their friends, as one does, and Sidney gets uncomfortable and leaves.
Never alone. Ow, liver. It was a joke.
I thought it was funny, Shaggy. I mean, Stu, my bad. Sydney arrives home and asks Tatum if she can spend the night with her since she's alone for the weekend. Tatum says yes and says that she'll come pick her up in a bit. Sydney begins to watch television and sees a report talking about how the recent murders were the worst thing the town of Woodsboro had seen since the rape and murder of Sydney's mom, Maureen Prescott, a year ago. It's almost like there's some connection here that's going to be brought up later. No, Sydney, don't answer that.
Hello?
Can't say I didn't warn you. Ghostface is on the other end. Except Sydney doesn't know who Ghostface is. Ghostface gets creepy on the phone as per usual and attacks Sydney by jumping out of the closet. A chase begins where Sydney tries to run out the front door but is stopped by the lock, so she runs upstairs. See, this is why I hate horror movies. The character always runs upstairs instead of going right out the front door.
They're all the same. Some stupid killer stalking some big-breasted girl who can't act, who's always running up the stairs when she should be going out the front door. It's insulting.
Hey, wait, I just said that. Sydney locks the killer outside of her room while she texts 911 on her computer. The killer leaves. Oh, okay. Well, at least she's okay now. Ah, Billy! What's that? A phone? Is Billy the killer? Sydney thinks so she runs downstairs into Dewey, who found the Ghostface costume. Billy is arrested for committing the murders, I guess. Seems a bit sudden, though.
Sydney! Godfrey, I'm so sorry I was late. Are you alright?
Hey, Tatum, you're a bit late. Sydney is taken to the police station to be interviewed. On her and Tatum's way out, Gail Weathers stops Sydney to interview her. One of the reasons Gail is famous is because she's writing a book about the murder of Sydney's mom and how Sydney put the wrong person in prison when she testified. You can see why Sydney doesn't really like Gail.
So, how's the book?
Well, it'll be out later this year.
Oh, I'll look for it.
I'll send you a copy.
Point proven. At Tatum's house, a phone call comes in for Sydney. It's Ghostface. Well then, I guess I was right. Billy wasn't the killer.
Hello.
Yeah, no, he hung up, Dewey. The next day at school, Sydney and Gail have a chat. Gail explains to Sydney why she thinks the person Sydney pointed out in the stand, Cotton Weary, is innocent. Sydney starts to believe her, and she and Gail piece together that the murder of Sydney's mom might be related to the recent Ghostface murders. In school, kids are teasing Sydney with Ghostface costumes. She runs away frustrated, straight into Billy. Billy tries to explain to Sydney that he's not the killer. Billy then goes on to blame Sydney for thinking he's the killer because apparently she's not over her mother's death. What the f***, dude? All right, you're an asshole. Sydney agrees, so she takes a bathroom break. On the plus side, she probably didn't have to go anymore. Principal Himbry, who seems like the kind of guy who'd enjoy jumping sharks in his free time, tells off the kids who were running around in Ghostface masks. After shooing the kids away, he decides to try cosplaying on for size before saying hello to the janitor in the hallway. Hey, wait, that's the hand knife guy. That's the hand knife guy. I gotta say, I love Wes Craven's cameo here. He's kind of like a horror version of Stan Lee. Why are we still watching Himbry do his thing? Shouldn't this scene be over by now? Hey, I'm bleeding. School ends early for a town-wide curfew, and Stu decides to have a party as place for the night. Stu goes to the video store, and we see Randy Meeks working there. Randy thinks that Billy is the killer, and Stu makes fun of him and says that Randy only thinks that because he wants Sydney and Billy to split up so Randy can swoop in and take her for himself. Randy explains that this whole situation is like a horror movie and that he thinks
Everybody's a suspect!
Jeez, man, he didn't even let me finish my sentence. Billy doesn't take kindly to this and confronts him. Yeah, Billy, over here for a second. For a character who's been basically cleared as innocent, you're not doing a good job at appearing so. The sheriff has figured out about the party tonight, so he tells Deputy Dewey to stay the whole time and watch what happens in case the killer shows up. Gail follows Dewey, Sydney, and Tatum to the party because, you know, that's what a creepy reporter would do. This party is bumping, y'all. The kids have drinks, horror movies, and because it's a slasher movie, young love. Gail wants a way into the party so she can sneak in one of her cameraman's cameras in case the killer shows up. So she uses Dewey, who is obviously in love with her, to get in. By the way, just because this isn't really something that comes up, the cameraman's name is Kenny. Remember that. She places her secret camera under the TV, which, like, isn't it illegal to just record a bunch of kids on a secret camera? Someone might be writing a book about you soon, Gail. Tatum goes to the garage for some beer, but she's stopped by Ghostface. She thinks it's one of her friends, so she makes fun of him.
No, please don't kill me, Mr. Ghostface. I want to be in the sequel.
Hey, that's a TikTok audio. Once again, I'm on that app too much. Ghostface then slashes Tatum. Tatum runs away and she smacks Ghostface with a freezer door. Lastly, she tries to escape through the doggy door, but gets stuck for plot purposes. Ghostface takes advantage of this plot contraption and opens the garage to crush Tatum. Ghostface slips back into the party to keep on the murder spree. Billy shows up to the party and Sydney says they need to chat.
What's Leatherface doing here?
Randy, I get it. You like horror movies. Now shut up. Wait a minute. They have a heart-to-heart and Sydney finally tells Billy she's ready to have sex with him. While Billy and Sydney are getting it on, everyone else is watching Halloween downstairs. Randy then begins to explain to them the rules of horror movies.
Number 1, you can never have sex. No! Big no-no! go!
Gail watches from her van with her cameraman Kenny, and Dewey knocks on the door to say there's a car down the road. He wants Gail to go check it out with him. Randy gets a phone call, and everyone finds out that Principal Himbry was killed. A bunch of kids leave to go see the dead body, and as they drive away drunkenly, they almost hit Dewey and Gail. Dewey and Gail roll into a ditch. Ooh, the perfect kissing position. And kiss they do. All right, let's make them a ship name. There's Dale and there's Gooey. Yeah, let's do Gooey. Billy and Sydney wrap up sexy time, and Sydney questions him more because she's not fully convinced that he's not the murderer. What would it take for you to think Billy's not the murderer?
Billy, watch out!
Is that enough? Apparently it is, so Sydney runs away. Ghostface stops her at a door that made no sense spatially until I watched the most recent Dead Meat video. Good video, by the way. Sydney runs into another room and blocks herself in. She crawls out the window and the killer grabs her and pushes her off. A convenient mattress catches Sydney. Why? Because plot purposes. Sydney sees her dead friend Tatum and runs away. Randy is watching Halloween by himself on the couch, and guys, this is my favorite scene in the entire movie. It's meta, funny, and intense. Just watch.
Behind you. Behind you.
Sydney runs to the van with Kenny the cameraman, and they see Randy on screen with Ghostface behind him. The cameraman jumps out of the vehicle to go warn Randy, but little did they know the video had a 30-second delay. Oh my gosh, they killed Kenny! Sydney traps herself in the van and crawls out of the back and runs. Gooey comes back to the house and splits up to cover more ground. Dewey runs to the house and Gail runs to the van. Gail calls the police and is jump scared by Randy. As she tries to drive away, the cameraman's body slips down the windshield. Gail nearly hits Sydney in the road, but instead slides her van into a ditch. Sydney runs back to the house to see Dewey coming outside with a knife in his back. Dewey, no, why? Dewey, no. Ghostface stalks towards Sydney and she locks herself in a police vehicle. She radios the police and tells them what's going on. But somehow the killer's in the car. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Sydney escapes to the front door. Randy and Stu come running up blaming each other for Tatum's death. Sydney holds them at gunpoint and locks them out of the house. Billy comes crawling out of the upstairs room, not quite dead, and rolls down the stairs. Billy goes to the door and asks Sydney for the gun, and Randy runs in.
Stu's flipped out. He's gone mad.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
No, Billy!
Billy shoots Randy, and Randy is down for the count.
Anthony Perkins, Psycho.
Okay, I get it. Y'all watch horror movies. Is this how annoying I sound? So Billy's the killer after all.
Surprise, Sydney.
And Stu? Yep, that's right. There are two ghost-faced killers. They used a voice modulator to disguise themselves and sound like one killer. Sydney gets cornered in the kitchen, and one of the most iconic horror endings of all time begins. Billy and Stu reveal that they are the ones who murdered Sydney's mom and pinned it on Cotton Weary. Billy claims that Sydney's mom sleeping with his dad was the reason his mom left. So Billy and Stu committed all the murders and kidnapped Sydney's dad to place the blame on him. As a part of this plan, they have to kill Sydney and her dad, then injure themselves in order to make it all believable. They both stab each other a little bit too much and go to grab the phone to call the cops, but the phone is gone. Gail stole it. She also has the gun. Gail to the rescue. Never mind. Billy doesn't kill Gail though, because plot reasons. While this was going down, Sydney and her dad escape. The phone rings and Sydney is on the other end with the voice modulator saying she called the police. Billy and Stu know they're in trouble. Billy destroys the living room in a fit of rage, and Stu...
My mom and dad are gonna be so mad.
He does Stu things. Billy decides to check the closet to see if Sydney's there. She's not. Psych! Umbrella stab, you b****. Billy goes down for the count. Stu attacks Sydney and they wrestle in the living room. Sydney smacks Stu with a vase and then drops the TV on his head. Maybe making smaller televisions in modern times was a bad idea. Box televisions seem to save more lives. I'm gonna make an early Scream 5 prediction so that I have it on the record in case I'm right, but I think Stu survived this. I think in the new movie he's the killer, especially with all the advertising saying that the killer is someone that we know. Is this wishful thinking? Oh yeah, for sure. But I just wanted it on the record just in case it happens to be right. Randy jump scares Sydney and he makes a meta horror joke that actually made me laugh pretty loudly.
Oh my God, Randy, I thought you were dead.
I probably should be. I never thought I'd be so happy to be a virgin.
Billy attacks Sydney and is about to kill her when Gail shoots him. Should have killed her, Billy. Billy must have just been a pretty die-hard Friends fan.
This is the moment when the supposedly dead killer comes back to life for one last scare.
You know, typically I'd agree with you, Randy, but that gunshot seemed pretty fatal. And I stand corrected. The movie ends with Sydney freeing her dad, Dewey being shown okay and carted off to the hospital, and Gail finally getting to do the report that would skyrocket her popularity. And that right there, folks, is the end of one of the most influential horror movies of all time. Scream grossed $173 million in the box office. What are my thoughts on the movie? Well, I'm glad you asked. I absolutely adore Scream. This movie has it all, from good scares to great meta commentary and hilarious jokes. Hell, this movie has the best cold open of any horror movie I've ever seen. To this day, the cold open holds up as one of the scariest things I've ever watched. I already know what's gonna happen at the end of the cold open, and it still has me on the edge of my seat the entire time. That's it for now. Remember to subscribe if you haven't already. A good portion of you watch my videos without even being subscribed. It only takes 2 seconds and you can always unsubscribe later. Also remember to leave a like and comment what you thought about the video. That's all for now. Bye!